Well, if anyone's going to dramatize anything,
I guess it'd be the media. Oh, God, for instance, there's a vicious pit bull terrier.
Look how vicious he is. He's going to
He's
eat
a
me
vicious
alive.
pit bull terrier. Why, those dogs are illegal in the United Kingdom because obviously they are a very threat to the fabric of society.
Eat small children every day.
That's what we feed them. Best dog I ever had was a pit bull. Why is it that everybody that knows anything about dogs knows that pit bulls are the sweetest animals on the face of the planet? And cat people all seem to think that they should all be illegal and shit. I don't understand it. Welcome back to the podcast. We're pleased you're here today. We're here with our friend Niki Sims. Niki's a starting strength coach in Atlanta, Georgia, USA. Mm-hmm. And she's here with her friend Henry.
This is Henry Pitts.
He's a good boy.
Henry is.
Look at him. Look at how pretty he is.
Henry, the best dog you'll ever meet.
So he's a handsome dog. He's a handsome dog. So, Niki just wrote an article, I guess you'd call it, for us. That was an essay, article, piece. We in the business refer to them as pieces. I don't know why. That's what they're called. Regarding, and in fact, I think the title was How to Get Your Squat Up to 405 in what was it, 8 weeks?
How to squat 405 in 12 weeks.
How to squat 405 in 12 weeks. And the article title was intentionally misleading. It was a lie.
I took advantage of...
It was the flash thing, right? It's
yes.
like, have sex with any woman now. Right? That kind of thing. It's just designed to get clicks. And shamelessly, we do that sometimes. And we're not above that at all. In reality, the article was not about how anyone can get their squat up to 405 in 12 weeks. It was about your training habits and how ensuring that your training habits were optimum will get you the optimum results in any period of time you'd like to select. So, Niki, tell us about it.
So I hear on the Facebook group sometimes and just in conversations with new clients how they want to squat 500 pounds or they want to squat 405 to be considered an adult male. And I appreciate like the intent to be strong and to show that by doing a really heavy squat. But sometimes what can happen during training is you'll start comparing yourself too much to people that have different genetics than you do, or you don't really take responsibility for your recovery habits or for your willpower for training. And what we want training to accomplish, in addition to squatting more, has a lot more to do with the actual number that you're going to end up with on the bar. And for example, one of the major things that training does is it makes you do things when you don't want to do them. And that's important because a lot of people get lost in, I'm waiting to go to the gym until I feel motivated. And then they don't go to the gym. And you can't wait for motivation in training, and you can't wait for motivation for other hard things in life. It's not going to come. It's up to you to make yourself do something on a schedule, even when you don't want to do it.
I think I'll wait till my squat is strong enough to do 405, and then I'll get my squat up to 405.
I'll squat 405. Yeah.
I'll squat 405. I'll wait until I don't need to do something and then do it. Right.
Or I'll wait until I've gotten my core stronger to start squatting.
Oh, yes.
I mean, that's an unfortunate reason to wait to squat.
Well, it's just people have been told that. People, I guess really the more general problem is that there are people on the internet who will say anything in order to get you to pay them money.
Absolutely. Like you can have
they will say anything.
The best booty butt you ever wanted if you just buy my program now.
Right.
Or
Absolutely.
and have abs in this many weeks.
Yes, it's unfortunate, but once again, the age-old maxim caveat emptor applies, especially to fitness industry product.
Yeah.
So anyway, what do you think?
Well, I think that the things that happen to a person emotionally, mentally, and physically through training are really important things, and it's easy to appeal to anything that's emotional, and a lot of what happens when people lose weight or get stronger is very emotional. So we're easily grabbed by titles like how to squat 405 in 12 weeks or how to lose weight now, like every, In Shape magazine and dumb shit that's out there. So it's
everybody's
easy ways in the fitness industry to get you, but it's hard to get where you truly want to be.
Everybody is intimately wrapped up in their own self-image. There's no doubt.
Yeah. And there's so much more to be gained that isn't centered around self-image. The benefits that you'll find in your own self-image will come from doing hard things like struggling through squats, struggling through deadlifts, doing things when you don't want to, like when life is really tough or when like work is stressful. You still keep your schedule and you create this habit that is with you all the time, and it's yours. Like it's your strength. It's not something that requires external validation because that is completely unreliable. This is something that you've built, and that's way more important than how many thousands of people think that your butt looks good from a particular angle online. That's easy. That is the easy way out.
This is a real good point. So many other, in fact, most of the other methods of programs of physical exercise that people are involved in, so often are predicated on external validation. How you look, what other people think of the way you look, what other people think of what you're doing in the gym. Our model, starting strength model, is predicated on how much you can do, not your perception of how much you can do. This is a RPE discussion. It's not based on your perception of what you can do. It's not based on your perception of how you look. It's not based on anyone else's perception of how you look. It's not based on perception. It's based on what happened, what actually occurred. Did you do 305 for 3 sets of 5? Did the last rep of the third set go? If it did, if that occurred, then you completed the work. If it did not occur, it doesn't matter what you think about it. It doesn't matter how hard you thought the fourth one was. It doesn't matter how hard you thought any of the previous work was. If you did the 5th rep of the 3rd set, then you completed the workout and you got stronger. You provided the stress that made you stronger.
Like having just that ease of yes or no is really nice. Like it's an easier map to follow.
Right. I think it's also interesting that all of the other programs that involve a training aspect to their approach to exercise all wait until you're an advanced lifter to do it. I think it's rather odd that no one else is figured out that a systematic, orderly training approach to novice training is in fact much more important than a similar approach to somebody's training who's already made up their minds that they're a competitor.
Right. Like why does squatting and benching and deadlifting have to be for a competitive power lifter? Like why can't anybody who wants to get strong do the same lifts? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Right. I'm saying that, it's obvious to everyone that, 5-3-1 and RPE and all this other stuff applies is clearly a training approach, and it also clearly applies to people who are going to meets. You could argue otherwise, but I think the vast majority of people that are doing this are serious lifters. Why not approach the problem in a training manner to the 55-year-old housewife that comes in the gym? Right?
Because
we know it works better.
Right.
We know that the habits that she will develop as a result of this kind of an approach will benefit her, not just in the gym, but at the house, at work, in every other aspect of her life.
But she has to get used to, and people listening to this might have to get used to, not being entertained by your going to the gym.
Precisely. Let's discuss the parts of training that people would rather not experience, but that they have to experience in order to, in fact, be training.
Like, one thing is you have to go to the gym 3 times a week in a certain order. And you have to get used to planning your happy hours around that, planning work meetings around that, planning when you're going to get up, planning when you're going to eat. That has to happen. That has to be a new priority in your life. And it's not on a whim anymore. It's not like, I ate so much this weekend, I need to go to a spin class. It's not reactive. It's more proactive.
Precisely.
So you have to make different decisions every day to make that happen. And it's not a whim or a lazy approach. It's a very systematic approach, like Rip just said.
Right.
Like
you write it down. You write it down in advance, and then you do what you wrote.
Another thing that you have to get used to is being uncomfortable. Like, I know I've talked about this before about, fuck your feelings and all, but, these work sets are not easy sets every time. Like, when you first begin this, you're kind of in like the honeymoon phase where you're like, okay, that weight's doable. I'm going to go in and knock out my 3 sets 5. It'll take me an hour. But there gets a point where the weight's intimidating and you're not sure if you're going to make it. But you still have to get under the bar. You have to unrack it. And you have to tell yourself, hips, or you have to tell yourself, stay in the hips to ceiling. You have to have that one cue. And you talked about this a lot over the seminar weekend, Rip, that you have to rely on something to get you through the set. Even if it feels heavy on your back, you have to do it. And that being uncomfortable is different because you might fail. And we don't like failing.
No.
That's not something that a lot of us are used to.
No.
And you got to be ready for it.
And by the same token, you can't dwell on the possibility that you're going to fail. Okay. One of the reasons we like to give the lifter a technical cue to concentrate on during, especially the work set, most especially the last rep of a work set, is so that the thought of what this heavy weight may be about to do to you is displaced by the critical analysis of what must take place in order that not occur.
Right.
You have to think about the
procedure.
procedure.
Doesn't happen.
Yes, so that you're not thinking about what you're going to do this rep with. You're thinking about how you're going to do the rep so as to complete the rep. And this is a mental skill, far more than a mental skill, than a physical skill. This is a mental skill that you have to cultivate that carries over into so many other aspects of your life. And I really believe that, and we've talked about this for many years, that weight training and strength training in particular, programmed strength training is as much developmental for your brain as it is for your body. And this is one of the reasons why it cultivates and develops the ability to discipline your ability to concentrate on things.
Yeah, that's big. Like, I'm just an anecdotal experience. Like, I worry a lot about the future. Like, spend time worrying about things that I can't control, and that can just make you freeze and not create any progress. And so having that one, the one simple thing that you can execute, and making yourself only think about that is big, because then you can make progress and you won't just freeze and not change. And change is the biggest thing that comes from training. It's an adaptation.
Yes, that's change is what we're trying to make occur. And that's the nature of adaptation, is something is now different. And the nature of training is that the things that are different are under our conscious and intentional direction.
Which is pretty fucking cool.
This is pretty fucking cool. There's no doubt about it. It puts you back in charge. And and you know, as a way to dovetail into this thing, we've been discussing a thing recently on the board about PTSD, and without going into a lot of detail to recoup the thread, my position and that of several of the other people that have posted on the board is that the best thing you can do for PTSD is to return an aspect of control to your day.
Mm-hmm.
If you can cultivate the ability to direct your attention completely and totally for the next 60 seconds while you're under the bar, that has a tremendous positive carryover into the other 23 hours and 59 minutes of the day.
When you're, right.
And
like if you have anxiety about something, you get really tunnel visioned on the one thing, that one thing. And so to step back from it, just give yourself a break from that, really opens up how much better you can approach everything else.
Right.
Yeah.
Learn to tunnel vision somewhere else.
Yeah. We talked a bit about relying on external validation and a bit about relying on external motivation. And that's another aspect that you can just get stuff waiting for to never happen. Mm-hmm. And so through training, you're more responsible for your own progress, and you start to learn that nothing's going to happen unless you actually do it.
Well, the interesting thing about that is you've got a training log,
mm-hmm.
right? And I know I'm an old fuddy-duddy and stuff, and I tuck my shirts in, and
I tuck my shirt in too.
What do I? Yeah, me and Nikki both tuck our shirts in. What else about me is old and in the mud?
You talk about
I like Zeppelin and not Tool.
You talk about mailing things.
Right. I talk about mailing things. I put things in the mail, that sort of thing. One of the other aspects about me that's fuddy-duddy-ish is that I keep a paper log, and when I train clients, on those rare occasions anymore when I train clients, we'll write down tonight's workout, and then as soon as the workout is finished, we write down the next workout.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of guys I help in here at night, some old farts like myself. I can't stand to mess with kids anymore. God, they're such unfocused little bastards. I just rather not deal with them. And these old guys, in fact, one of my guys in here that's been a friend of mine for several years was a B-52 pilot back in the Cold War. He worked for Strategic Air Command, and he had open heart surgery about 8 months ago, and decided after they finally released him from cardiac rehab.
To lift objects more than 20 pounds.
Yes, to lift objects more than 20 pounds. I started with him, and the first day he came in here and trained, he deadlifted 88 pounds for a set of 5. And his comment that day was, this is way harder than anything they had me do in cardiac rehab. And I said, yeah, it is. And let me show you a little trick. So I grabbed this book, and I wrote down the next workout, and I wrote down 100 times 5 on the deadlift, and his eyes got real big, and I said, no, I already wrote it down.
You have to do it.
I wrote it down, and you have to do it. In fact, you're going to do it Wednesday. And I said, because it's written down, you're going to do it Wednesday.
It's real now.
It's
real.
It's real now. And it doesn't matter what you think about it. It certainly doesn't matter what you feel about it. You can do it. I know you can do it, even though you don't know you can do it. But when you come in here on Wednesday and do it, then you'll know.
And he did it.
And you did it. So Wednesday he came in and did it. And he said, that felt just as, God almighty, that was hard. I said, did it feel any harder than Monday's 88? He said, well, no, it felt about the same. I said, when you're doing 315 for 5, the end of this year, it'll feel exactly the same way. And he, he couldn't believe it. But the fascinating thing is that using this method of convincing yourself, whether you want to or not, that you're going to do it by writing it down and that it has to be done and your feelings and desires and wishes are utterly irrelevant. It now says Wednesday, 100 pounds. Then you're going to come in here and do it. And he's up to 250 for 3 now.
That's cool.
And it's been 8 months. The interesting thing about Scott is that he's gotten off of the vast majority of all of his medications. And I told him the other night, he said he had a doctor's appointment and that he was interested in getting off of a bunch of this stuff. And I said, well, here's the interesting thing, Scott, you're not a heart patient anymore. Now you're a lifter. And he said, yeah, I am.
Mm-hmm.
And he's stronger than he's ever been his whole life. He's 66, and he's stronger than he's ever been. He's never trained before. And, ladies and gentlemen, I can't tell you how critical it is that you extrapolate the effects of this training approach to your exercise program beyond the gym, because it operates far beyond the gym. There are aspects of implementing the training program that must occur in the gym in order for you to be successful in the gym. Those things carry over, and they're far more important outside the gym than they are in the gym. But the things that you learn in the gym facilitate this.
Mm-hmm.
These things, briefly, are learning to train when you don't want to, learning to not care how it feels, learning to disregard anything except the numbers in the book, making a schedule and sticking to it. And people, plan your funerals around your training. Okay? It's certainly that critical. Certainly plan weddings around your training.
And sometimes you're going to have to plan sex around your training.
Getting laid,
Mm-hmm.
going to sleep, everything about this must be planned around your training. And if you can learn to do these things, the things that training demands and the things that training teaches you, then you're going to be a better person as a result of this. Niki, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate your input. Where's Henry?
Always good to be here.
Where did Henry go?
Come here. Henry,
Yeah,
I have a cat now. You probably don't even want to see it.
I don't care about the cat. Hi, cat. But pet Henry on the head for us.
I will.
Okay. All right.
Thank
You guys pet Henry on the head, too. Thanks for watching us, and we'll see you
Thanks,
next
guys.
time. Bye-bye.